Hey, it's Dinosa. I know it's late on a Sunday, but I've been doing this finals week, and I got everything but one thing done, which is due tomorrow, which is for my finals in my class. So it's just more work to do. So anyway, I actually managed to scrounge around and find time to watch The Lone Ranger. And I know I said I was going to do this yesterday, but I just got so swamped with stuff I didn't have the time to do it. But I am going to get it in tonight before midnight. Um, what it was is The Lone Ranger was a comic that was from a long time ago here, but it's been once again done by Walt Disney. This is not Walt Disney's company first time with the comic book character The Lone Ranger. They've done it before. There's even as a kid, I remember cartoons of the Lone Ranger in comics, and it was just really awesome at the time when you're a kid and the Masked Rider and Boom Boom Cowboys. It was fun on that, but they finally have a film. It was I believe, over 30 years since the last Lone Ranger film, which made it a shoe-in to do because it hasn't been done so long. So most people that were alive or remember it don't remember it. It's not the same thing. Remember, we had Zorro. The last Zorro film was technically Zorro the Gay Blade, and then they had Zorro. I'm sorry, the Mask of Zorro years later. So, this is not unusual. I mean, to be honest, there was a popular '80s film called Revenge of the Ninja, and do not be surprised if that comes up. That may come up soon, but anyway, I'm getting sidetracked here. But anyway, I'm here to talk about The Lone Ranger. The Lone Ranger 2008 stars Johnny Depp, and actually I have this guy's name here. Uh, let's see, Johnny Depp and I believe Arnie Hammer, which actually those two characters, I thought just seeing it in action, the character for the Lone Ranger was perfect. He was a quintessential Lone Ranger, modernized for today's the white hat, the mask, everything. It just worked. It just worked with his character. I think they did Walt Disney did a really good job on it. However, Johnny Depp as Tonto, that Johnny Depp is known to take very unusual roles. He's real. I mean, he's had several breakouts before, but the real one that made him a ton of money, of course, is the legendary Jack Sparrow as Pirate. However, in this film, I felt like I was watching Jack Sparrow as Tonto the Indian, and it it was like he was not even that. He was acting like he was like talking to Indian, but doing Jack Sparrow stuff like that, and or that just stuff like that, or face paint and all. And I don't know, it just didn't fit on that. But what I thought was really neat about the film, it was a few things. There was actually a film. The film was kind of a disaster in the theaters because it was one so expensive to make. Two, they expected it to be an absolute smash. Here Comes Despicable Me 2 completely tanks it. Uh, that when they say like that, how could this happen? Really? Those kind of computer animated shorts that they're really meant for like adults, like Toy Story is really an adult, or Cars, but it translates well to adults and kids, and that's why it works so well. And and that's what Hollywood needs to remember. It's because the generation that has kids now was the generation that watched cartoons. So when you put a CG up, it works. And like the Tonto Lone Ranger on that. This was a really neat attempt at it, and it was actually quite like way violent for a Disney film. I was really surprised. It wasn't the lighthearted Disney character you would know. I mean, people were getting shot left and right. There was no real blood shown, but like people got their necks cut, scalped, all sorts of stuff. It was just like, wow. But there was a cool thing. I think I caught it. There was cameos from like the original guys that played the Lone Ranger characters, like the I think the 1950s film with that, because there was this really old guy and the radio station is like, "What are you waiting for?" And he looked really familiar. I don't know if it's true, but it really looks like a cameo from him. Which that's not unusual. They did that a lot with films that transfer over years. They usually bring someone back to connect it, which is cool. But anyway, what the whole story circumvents about is a classical story, and this is what's really shocking for Disney of all people, is that this film focuses on the Transcontinental Railroad that's met in actually what it was Indian country, Comanche territory. And it was the Transcontinental Railroad met there, and what happened is during the search of the Transcontinental Railroad, they found silver. One of the people that run it found silver in the mountains, and went and got the silver. And they were going to move the silver to San Francisco. As soon as it gets to San Francisco in the banks, it'd be worth $65 million. Now, this is $65 million in 1800s money. That is a lot of freaking money. The guy could have literally bought probably most of the United States on that with that kind of money. It was so big. But what it was is it shows this guy corrupt, not really corrupt, just more direct kind of sleazy business, but he had a goal. And he didn't care what goal it was. This included slaughtering, and the unknown person that showed him was Tonto when he was a kid. Showed him where the silver was. But unknowingly it cost him his whole tribe and his family. Sad, but we all make mistakes like that. So anyway, the whole film circumvents about how in the beginning it started off just innocent enough, like bounty hunters going after escape outlaws. Then they found that the outlaws were connected to the corporate people. It was actually a corporate person that was ruthless and hostile takeover, was getting the silver, making the money, making the moves, doing all that stuff. And then what happened is very, very simply enough, is that they kept saying like, oh, like the Lone Rangers, like, if the law and the men who lead this country are like this corporate man, I don't want to wear this. I don't want to be a part of them. And then Tonto hands him the mask and says, "That's why you need this," which is interesting. I mean, I think it's very fascinating for a company like Disney to be using ethical allegories when Disney itself is notorious for just marketing the hell out of stuff and squeezing every single dime out of its guests. It's for everything. It's like surprising. I think the only one who gets really paid in those films is Johnny Depp. Except I think his credibility kind of took a dive unless he's playing Jack Sparrow again, because people are going to be like, I don't know, I don't want to watch another Tonto Jack Sparrow thing. But he doesn't care. He's got hundreds of millions. He doesn't care anymore. He just did it because he thinks it was fun. That's the kind of cool thing, when you're willing to do something like that. You have that kind of money and you just do something fun. But the film does touch on some historical stuff. It touches on social economics, genocide, collusion, such as the outlaw bandits were pretending to be Indians, and that was part of the deal to get the railroad through, which, when the Transcon Railroad was being formed, that was part of some of the rumors that was going on, that the Indian tax were actually falsified or collusion. They were paying off other people to do it and then claim it's Indians. There's a little bits of that, but not really if I remember too much about it. But what I think is really interesting, more the fact that Disney is trying to make this upstanding good hero, but here you are, the Disney system, doing that. And it's like, okay, it was a lighthearted film, but there was a lot of it that felt kind of flat. Now, on to the cool stuff. The cool stuff is that the gunplay scenes were excellent, all done very well. But the most awesome is when they played the original, and it's not the Lone Ranger's theme, and I have it actually what it is. The theme itself, the Lone Ranger theme, is actually a classical theme that comes from I believe it's the Swiss. I have it right here. It was from the Swiss on that, and I believe William Tell's Overture. That's it. Um, that's it. But what it was is the the dun 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 dun, and that was here is the March of the Swiss Soldier on that. And it was also William Tell's Overture. But here's the thing, and when the critics, because I see it right here, they were saying, "Oh, don't expect that there," and then they started playing it, and it made sense why they started playing it, because that's Lone Ranger's theme. So he starts lassoing Gatling guns and starts racing off, and it was the last scene that was just kind of adventurous, even though it was kind of like, yeah, he'll be fine. Oh, and something else I wanted to touch on is that this, like, genocide and innocent blood, and there's like scenes where like Indians are getting slaughtered, like with Gatling guns. I know I'm kind of jumping around because it's late, but anyway, go back to this William Tell Overture. He's racing, he's jumping on buildings. The horse jumps on a roof, then jumps onto a train, and he starts running on the top of the train. And this whole background with the spirit horse that like defies logic on how it can get to certain locations. But that ending was it was just adventurous. It was an awesome ending on that because it's just the adventure to get there. But at the very end, they say, "Okay, you got to take off the mask," and he's like, "Forget it. You guys aren't worth it." And then at the very end, the Lone Ranger goes off in the sunset. So overall, the film was okay, but I felt at times like I said earlier, Tonto was Jack Sparrow. The Lone Ranger at times was like Indiana Jones, because he like wouldn't shoot people, but he would. It was really, really weird. Or that he has a love interest that he kind of like. It's like, oh, goodbye, ma'am. I'll see you around sunset, something. But there was something missing. Oh, you know what? I forgot this whole thing. This whole story is being told by a little boy at a San Francisco fair by an aged Tonto. It is say in 1933 fair in San Francisco, where they call this a savage warrior, where Tonto is aged and he tells his little boy in a Lone Ranger outfit what the whole story was. And then the little boy was so engrossed in the story. And what was cool about that is that all the other, like myself and other people that were so engrossed to the story of the Lone Ranger, it was like telling us the story all over again, which was kind of cool because it was a great way of translating it, like to trying to bring it to the kids of this generation. Fortunately, the kids of this generation don't have stories like that, or just don't believe them anymore. But anyway, so basically at the very end, he races off. He's on the horses, jumps on train to train to train. The silver train is moving, and basically you have a little puzzle game with tracks going like this, and then they finally catch up with the bad guy, and the bad guy holds a gun to Lone Ranger, says, "This train's heading to hell," and Lone Ranger whips up and says, "You're right." Jumps off the train, and then the train comes and smashes him. that was pretty cool. He died. That bad guy died pretty cool. And the main corporate dude ironically, I think this is more of a kind of a tribute to the Bible. They went off an exploded bridge, and the silver that was in the containers crushed him in the water, which made sense. And he let go of a watch, but. Overall, I think the film was good. It was intended to be good, but it just maybe the time wasn't right or something. It wasn't. It wasn't like Jack Sparrow Adventure. They tried. I mean, I want to say they almost even tried too hard, but they definitely the William Tell Overture was needed. The new no that's thing they did that right. That was needed, and they did a good job on it. But overall, check it out. It's a DVD rental at bare minimum, or Amazon Instant Video. Anyway, this is Dinosa. I'll see you later.